It's 3 a.m., the night before my wedding. I wake up suddenly. My mother is sleeping beside me, undisturbed by my sudden awakening. Friends and family have traveled near and far to be there with us on our special day. I thought to myself, this time tomorrow, I'm going to be married. Was this the pre-wedding jitters? Did the weight of this moment wake me from my slumber? I began to pace back and forth in the hotel lobby. Then I decided I needed to sit, get quiet, meditate until I calmed down. Then, when I was ready, I got back into bed with my mom, and I gave her a hug. I held her. I held her until we fell asleep. We didn't know it at the time, but it was that exact hour that my grandfather died. That exact moment that my mother lost her father. We didn't find out until the next morning. My grandfather was not well enough to travel to Montreal for our wedding, so he died alone in Toronto. My grandmother had left his side 24 hours before to be there on my special day. My grandmother and I, we had a soul connection. She was my oldest friend and my closest confidant. And it seemed fitting that we be together on that day that she lost her husband and I gained mine. A week after our wedding, my husband and I traveled to Toronto for my grandfather's funeral. Shortly after his funeral, we decided to go through his things, as one tends to do when you've lost someone that you love. It was part of the grieving process. In my grandparents' bedroom, there was a beige metal filing cabinet. I mean, the bedroom's a kind of funny place to put a filing cabinet. It never really went with the decor of the bedroom. My grandmother once threw a doily, a lace doily over the filing cabinet to try to help it to blend in. But yeah, it always stuck out like a sore thumb. It was difficult to ignore, impossible to ignore. While my grandfather was alive, I never dared open that filing cabinet. But now that he was gone, I was curious. What's inside the cabinet? What secrets lay within? So I walked over and I pulled open the top drawer. It made that noise, metal on metal, just creaked right open. And inside there were folders. Folders with my grandfather's distinct handwriting. My grandfather, he loved a Sharpie. And he would label everything. And so each and every one of those folders had my grandfather's writing in cap lock, labeled every single one of those folders. I mean, none of it looked all that interesting. I assumed that there were legal documents, government documents in there. But buried deep underneath all those folders was a journal with a Mona Lisa on it, on the front and back cover, which was kind of an odd choice for my grandfather if you knew him. I mean, he loved history. He never cared much for art. So I was like, what's this? And I pulled the journal out of the filing cabinet. I opened it, and on the very first page, at the top of the page, it said, "The Life and Times of Benbenito Gose." Was this his memoir? I thought. As I quickly read through the pages, I realized that this was not like any memoir I had read before. It wasn't sentimental. There were no memories, reflections on his life. Instead, there were facts. Cold, hard facts. He listed key moments in his life and in the lives of his family members. Births, baptisms, graduations, weddings, funerals, even our medical history. He wrote my blood type in this journal. Since he died, my family has visited that journal many times to better understand him and to better understand each other. This was not like any memoir I had read before. Oh no. This was a statement, proof that he existed, proof that he lived. Several weeks ago, my grandmother died. As we did 13 years before, my family went through her things. Again, we looked in to that same beige metal filing cabinet. And there were those folders with my grandfather's handwriting. Again, didn't look all that interesting. Bunch of legal documents, bunch of government documents. But this time, I opened one of those folders and I found love letters from 1946 to 1950. Love letters between my grandmother and my grandfather in the years leading up to their wedding. Days before their wedding, actually, was one of the last letters included in the folder. Why am I finding this now? How did I not see it 13 years ago? Unlike the notebook, the contents of those letters were emotionally charged, deeply sentimental. The act of preserving them was sentimental. My grandfather was our family archivist, my grandmother a storyteller. And now that they're gone, what is my role in continuing their work? The love letters, the notebook, the photographs are my inheritance. How do I honor them?